Welcome everyone in another episode of the Talking with Francesco series. Today, I think I have the perfect guest. So a guest which is DevRel, likes running, DevOps, Kubernetes. So the only bug is that we never met so far. I think we have been to some conferences together, but we never managed to get a selfie together. So I'm here also to ask Abdel if he's intentionally avoiding me or not. So welcome, Abdel. How are you?
I will never intentionally avoid somebody who is into running. So I might avoid some people, but there is different reasons. Thank you for having me. I'm good. Thank you.
Great. So, Abdel, really welcome. I really want to have an open conversation. This is our first talk to each other. So it's the first time that we talk to each other. So we also have our honest reaction. For sure, I will know something that I didn't know about you. So first of all, please introduce yourself so people can know more about you. And if you're here in the chat, also feel free to say hi, please.
Well, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Abdel Sghiouar. My name is kind of weird. You can pronounce it however you want. I am from Morocco originally. That's my background. I've been living in Sweden for almost 8 years now. So I work at Google as a developer advocate. I've been in the company for almost 12 years now. My background is basically infrastructure. I came from a very weird background. I did data centers in the past. If you've never used the internet, I was basically in the place where the internet lives. If the internet manifested itself as a person, I lived with the internet. And I did a lot of infrastructure, as in kind of basic compute, storage, networking infrastructure, and slowly graduated into Kubernetes and the cloud. And I basically run, eat, and talk about containers, Kubernetes.
Perfect, great. So 12 years, I think, we've been working at Google for 12 years,
Yes.
right? Is the real. So I would like to know more about that phase and maybe how you get hired and how you find this role. If you have been hired as a DevRel since the beginning, or you switched to role in your career, and then I also want to know more about the current activities. So the question is basically, how did you get in Google?
So I didn't start at DevRel, right? I converted to DevRel full time about 3 years ago. Although arguably I was doing a bit of DevRel work in the past, as in I've done some conferences and talks, created content, like wrote some blogs, tutorials, things like that. Through my career, this is something I've been always interested in, kind of like sharing the knowledge. But officially 3 years ago. So I started, I started with Google 12 years ago in the data center in Belgium, when I moved from Morocco to Belgium. My first time outside of the country, well, my first time working outside of the country. So Google has multiple data centers around the world, and Belgium is the biggest one, and still is by far the biggest one in Europe. So I worked there for about 4 years. I worked on basically the data center infrastructure, so servers, networking equipment, all that stuff. And then about 8 years ago, I moved to Sweden, and that's when I joined the cloud department. And initially, the first 5 years, I was in the consulting part. So Google has a department called professional services. It's essentially consulting. So we work with customers, helping them implement whatever they need to implement. I very quickly took kind of Kubernetes as specialty because of my background in infrastructure and kind of like orchestrating applications across the distributed system. That's kind of what I did for a while. Kubernetes was kind of a native, like a sort of kind of natural fit for my background and the kind of stuff I was working on. I was doing a little bit of DevOps before even DevOps was even a word, right? And so I did that for 5 years, did consulting all over the place. And then around 2022, that's when I moved to DevRel. And so now I'm the Kubernetes DevRel in Europe. We are like 2 in the whole company, or 3 people. So
Great. So I had a question about why did you enjoy DevOps so much? But I think it's more from your background. So I would like to know more about what's your favorite part about the DevOps. Maybe I have an idea of your answer, but I want to know from you, because I'm also a huge fan of DevOps, even before getting on social media, before getting even my first role in tech. So we already have something in common, but I would like to know from you, like, what do you find fascinating, if you find fascinating, all these DevOps and Kubernetes tools?
I was always a big fan of this intersection of like software and hardware in a way. and it's kind of weird to say hardware because pretty much everybody today does some sort of virtualization and above. Very few people are gonna like work on bare metal, but if you do, you're lucky. uh, but like I've been always a fan of this whole concept of automating the way you get applications into production and monitoring them once they're in production and recovering from failure and backups and all that stuff, right? That intersection of software and hardware or software and infrastructure have always been something that I was interested in because my first job was in a data center, basically helping customers put their stuff in production. And um, and also a little bit because of my education, my background was in electronics. So I don't know, I'm probably one of the developers that knows how to fix a computer. I know that this is weird to say, but I don't think today, if you grow up in the internet era and you've only done software developments and you open a computer, you'll probably be confused of what's going on inside, right? Um, so um, so yeah, that's the thing that have always been interesting to me. I think that DevOps is really this thing that just took this kind of concept of the intersection of hardware and software and put a process around it. But at the core, it's really how do I get a software from where it's produced to where it's supposed to be running, right?
Yes, so you build your own PC, of course.
Obviously, yeah, of course, come on.
Okay, yeah, okay. And now we are revealing our age, of course. But yes, I'm also one of those crazy people who can, you mount the CPU by yourself. Like can sound a bit crazy for someone.
And you put the thermal paste on the CPU before
of course, and not a thermal paste on the GPU, of course. Sometimes.
Obviously,
so
yes.
that's a lot of fun.
Who doesn't do that?
It will be weird if you never did that. Just read this in the chat because it will be weird for me. For me, this is like the default one. This is what developers do, right? Yes, thank you, Abdel. And also what I find fascinating about DevOps is that it's a bit of, let's say, time-resistant thing. So like we have so many evolving technologies and frameworks, but I found like technologies like Docker and Kubernetes, like they are really resilient and very hard to go compared, let's say, to some new frameworks or some new I don't know, CSS framework. I don't want to throw shit, but just to have an idea of that. I like to learn something that can stay with me from the whole my whole career, and also want to understand how things are done. So it's probably connected to what you said. Like I want to know what happens. I don't want the application to just be there. Even if now we have so many tools that can automate the deployment, like Vercel, or we have Shuttle for Rust or Laravel, but I still want to know what happens under the hood. I want to have some sort of control. Thank you. I would like to know from your perspective, like what do you think like Google is doing right in this ecosystem, which has like so many competitors, so many things. So I would like to know from your Google developer advocate point of view, what do you think Google is doing very well in this area?
Well, I mean, open sourcing Kubernetes, that's the first one, right? If Kubernetes wouldn't exist as a tool, the whole ecosystem, the whole cloud native ecosystem would probably not exist. Now, this does not mean that certain other tools wouldn't exist, because it's funny that when you look at the cloud native ecosystem, Kubernetes seems to be this tool that get like a lot of the praise and a lot of attention. But in that ecosystem, there are tools that existed way before Kubernetes, right? Prometheus is a very good example. Prometheus is older than Kubernetes, and I'm quite sure I'm missing something. But there is actually one other project which is the oldest in the entire ecosystem, and older than Kubernetes, so older than 10 years. So, but I think open sourcing it and pushing it out, giving it to a different entity, an external entity, kind of created that ecosystem that pushed the industry a certain direction. Now, I'm not saying that Kubernetes is it's like a widely adopted tool, but it's not the only tool in the market today. It's just that it's kind of becoming the standard and becoming expected that it is part of a platform that people deploy on, right? And then continue to also open source other stuff. Kubernetes is not the only one. We're making available. I mean, we're still by far the biggest contributors into the Kubernetes itself, the project, and continue to open source other projects. Some of them work, some of them fail, but that's kind of how the nature of open source, right? And I think, generally speaking, just continue to share. I mean, there's a lot of white paper coming out of all this AI space. where Google just publish the research they do and share it with the world and go like, hey, go build something with this, right? So yeah, that's essentially, yeah.
Perfect. I think this was a great answer, of course. So I think it had probably the most impactful thing that happened probably in the DevOps ecosystem. Thank you. And yes, it becomes more, let's say, natural. Before, like, say, probably 5 years ago, it was almost like a meme, like to know, like all the Kubernetes thing. Now it becomes like something that it's becoming slower. Slowly, we are getting the adoption and getting more used to know at least the basics, or at least how it works. At least I see less people comparing Kubernetes to Docker, which is a great plus for me, because there people think they are alternatives. So this always made my fingers to scratch a bit. So thank you. And I would like to know, what do you think it will be in 2-3 years, the future of Kubernetes, also with all these AI automation tools? What do you think is the direction we are going to? This is, I think, very, very interesting. We also stayed 10 minutes without mentioning AI, but you mentioned this exactly at 10 minutes. So let's talk about Kubernetes and AI.
Sure. I think that's one thing that I'd like to mention before is it's interesting that you see in your side people confusing Docker and Kubernetes. Um, um, I saw an article recently that talks about Docker Swarm, and it's interesting that like it almost never comes up in the discussion. It's almost like people forgot about it, but it still exists, right? Yeah, to the question, I mean, Kubernetes itself as a project at this stage is premature, right? It's mature, production ready, pretty much. You can throw it in your production and it will just work. There are multiple ways we can look at the future, but since AI is sort of like dominating the industry these days, Kubernetes itself has a lot of advancements in the AI space. So the community is building a lot of features that are meant to make Kubernetes the platform to run, models, to deploy models, to fine tune them. Now, this doesn't mean that Kubernetes was not used in this context, right? If you look at projects like Kubeflow, which existed way before this AI space became a thing 2 years ago, Kubeflow existed. People used it to do machine learning training, machine learning fine tuning on Kubernetes. But it's like the acceleration of advancements in terms of the features that are being added to Kubernetes to make it the platform for AI. It's funny. I was looking at the it's interesting that the live stream is happening today because tomorrow, Wednesday, Kubernetes 1.33 is coming out, so the new version, the new release. And I had a sneak peek into the blog that will be published with all the new features, and pretty much like more than 50% are like AI focused. So yeah, it's like adding more things to make Kubernetes the place or the choice for running AI workloads is one of the futures that I see. There is, of course, things like focusing on edge use cases, deploying Kubernetes on the edge. Imagine you are like a supermarket or fast food company, and you want to deploy your apps as containers in a store. So that's like an edge use case. Deploying Kubernetes in air-gapped environments, as we call them, or disconnected environments where you have to somehow save your logs and your metrics locally, and you cannot just ship them because you don't necessarily have internet. Or you have some sort of spotty or slow or not always available internet. So how do you deal with these kind of things is another one. So yeah, there are kind of multiple advancements on multiple fronts.
Thank you so much, Abdel. I think that so we basically have a sneak peek. So as you see, you are even more advanced than tomorrow. So we already know that this will be out tomorrow. So if you're watching, you know. Now I also know, because it's so hard to keep track with all the things happening in this ecosystem. Now that we have Kubernetes, Docker, I also create my own content on Rust, news, and AI, and all the IDEs. So this is also one of the reasons why I invite people, so I can get some news at least, so I know.
It's very hard to keep
some
up.
stuff.
Yeah,
it's very hard to keep up. Yes, but I mean, I think this is part of our role. I think I think if you are a developer, you should be ready to never settle and get ready to like this is part of the job, I would say. So
Yeah.
it's not something that you can do. So yes, thank you. And is there any specific tool or maybe something that you have been using recently? It can be an ID, it can be a tool, it can be something related to Google, whatever, that to say, okay, this tool is promising, because there are so many that maybe I missed some of them. So is there anything that you tried and no, you sort of like it?
Yeah. So we've been looking recently into the space of running LLMs on Kubernetes, and VLLM is a great tool for that. It's amazing. It just works. So for those who are not initiated into this space, running an LLM in Kubernetes, the analogy I always use is running or deploying a website. So if you have a website, which is a combination of like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you need to serve those, you need a web server. In the ML space, that's an inference server. So VLLM is an inference server. You deploy the inference server, then you deploy your model, and then you serve the model. And VLLM is a great tool. We are exploring it extensively because we think it's a very capable tool. It's partially written in Rust, by the way. Um, a lot of these inference servers have some Rust libraries built in because efficiency, right? And yeah, we've been looking into it quite a lot. And then maybe this is a shameless plug, but the thing that we announced last week, this thing called ADK, the Agent Development Kit. To be fair, I was trying to stay a little bit away from agents for a while to kind of like try to ignore them. But last week I had the opportunity to play with the agent development kit, and for the first time it clicked in my head like what is an actual agent and how it works. And simply because when ADK came out, they released a lot of samples that made it easier for people to like get started, where you just like git clone repo, run the ADK command line locally, and then you get to interact with an agent to sort of understand how it works, right? Um, so these are the two tools I am really playing around with these days. So the ADK on one hand for everything agents. This is kind of not related to Kubernetes, but there is a tool. So ADK itself is not Kubernetes specific. It's just a tool, a framework to write agents in Python. But there was a release a few weeks ago of something called K Agents, which is a tool to package and run agents on Kubernetes, right? I mean, agents are just a container, so you can just run them anywhere. And that's on one hand, and then VLLM on the other hand are the two main tools I'm looking into these days.
Great. I like how this idea of containerizing something, it keeps working even in the AI era. We can always containerize things.
You
This
know
can
what?
be.
It goes back to this discussion around the basics. Like a lot of people, they see this stuff and they're like, "Oh, it's so advanced." I'm like, "No, it's just code inside the container, right?" It's not really difficult.
Yes, exactly. And so thank you so much for sharing this. I want to know more about this. So now, for example, I'm trying to do like once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks. I do like a live, like when I get news about different things. So I'll put this, of course, in something that I will check. I will check live. And thank you also to making these very clear analogies. So it absolutely clicked also for me, and I don't know, I will check it out. I didn't know about this, so I have one more thing to check out because of you. Thank you, Abdel. So, okay, let's talk about conferences. So we were joking about like we didn't manage to meet at some conferences because we are always busy. I'm sure that you're always busy and so on. So first of all, there is a big news, which is that we might actually meet again in a month or so, right?
Yes. So that will be in Romania, hopefully.
So there's a conference called the Dev Talks Romania. I've been already there 2 times. It's a very nice conference, and so meeting Abdel can be another huge plus, and we for sure will have a selfie together this time. So yeah, what's your experience with conferences? Do you think that they are still worth it, or should we just vibe code all day long?
This is a very good question. Uh, I guess if you are vibe coding, there are actually some conferences that are really good for that, right? So I feel like vibe coding is the new crypto. At some point, there will be like an increase in the number of vibe coding related conferences, right? Um, I think there was a wave of no code didn't work, but vibe code is somehow gonna catch. So we'll
So
see.
it's all about marketing and how you name things, basically.
Of course, it's always is. I think the exception to that is Java, because Java is immortal as a programming language.
Yes. For example, if you call like electric oven like air fryer, it sounds like way better. I would say so. It's a similar
Why do you
concept.
want an
Like
oven? You want an air fryer, right?
exactly. So vibe coding is similar to that. Can I ask your experience with vibe coding? Because I tried a couple of times and I absolutely hated it. So once something is Twitter and Twitter bubble, what is your like? Have you ever done like tried vibe coding in a live stream or or by yourself, like real, like not writing code, just prompting?
Yes, I did. Not in a live stream. I tried it a couple of times just with Gemini Code Assist, our Code Assist. And a few weeks ago, we were in London during the conference, and there was this like event that Google was doing in the London office, and we had like a lot of people. Vibe Code Con, I like that. And there was like a lot of people talking through the entire day about a lot of serious stuff. And me and a colleague, we came at the end of the day, and we were like, let's lighten the mood. Let's kind of, let's do something funny. So we went on stage and we decided, let's just vibe code an IKEA assembly instruction website using Next.js, because we heard that was cool, right? And so we kind of pretended we're not front-end developers. We don't know what we're doing. We're not coders. We just heard that the next 1 billion business is people want the IKEA instruction manual thing, but in a website. And so we used Gemini Code Assist and we just accepted every single thing it gave us, right? And so there was two kind of observation that came out of this. First of all, preparing for the talk, we had to try a couple of times. And even if you fine tune the prompts, no two prompts will give you the same results. Like you prompt the same AI twice.
It's non-deterministic.
It's a non-deterministic system. That's number one. So, and number two, there are certain things that you need to know as a developer. I mean, of course, just on quotes unquotes, like the whole talk was jokes, and we of course knew what we were doing, even we didn't know Next.js, but we're developers, so we know what we're doing. We know that when we click on, we execute command line, this is what this thing does. And if we had to, we would probably be able to read the code and fix it. But the observation number two was that there are certain things you will have to do as a developers where you would struggle expressing a prompt to an AI. So you wouldn't even know how to ask. It's not about vibe coding. It's just like you wouldn't know how to ask questions. And we tried that. We tried this tool, and it just didn't work. You keep prompting it multiple times, trying multiple words, and it just wouldn't work. So I think that like I would say basically, like any no code tool, these things have a limit. It's just like at some point you're gonna hit a wall, and you kind of have to know what you're doing before you can progress any further.
Yes, I agree. And of course, let's say that you want to have a therapy. Probably being a doctor helps, even if you use an AI tool, because otherwise you don't even know what to do with this information. So probably if you have a lot of time, so for me, web code it can be very powerful if it's used as a tool to learn if your brain is connected. Is connected, because if you disconnect your brain, and if you want to have fun, it's fine. I think I will make a live stream soon, not just to have fun, and that's fine. What I think it's a bit dangerous is people thinking that they're actually really coding if they are not. It's like, opening up like a car with just touching things, and you think that you are a mechanic. You are not. You're just playing around with things and having some fun. So that's the thing. It's not a replacement for learn, unless you use I will do the opposite. Like, for example, I find AI very useful, not to write code, but to the opposite. So to explain me what does this code do, or maybe explain me things, and this is very good. And
Yes.
if you try to ask AI, like, okay, why did you create this file? Why is this? Is it because this you need to connect this with this driver and so on? So it's useful. Instead, I see more people doing the opposite, like just writing brainless code without the explanation, which is probably the opposite use case that I would have for me, like I don't know, understanding a large code base, understanding what a specific file can do. So I would use, I don't know how to find this idea, no, vibe understanding, I don't know, something like that, like vibe understanding code. I need to create a better term than this, just to marketing it better.
I think I have an analogy about this. I think, like, I mean, I talk about IKEA assembly, assembling IKEA furniture, and if you haven't guessed, I live in Sweden. Um, Vibe coding by norm is basically reading through junior coder mind while the coder does its stuff and does not make the vibe coder itself. Yeah, that's a very valid point. I think that the way I would like to the analogy I would give is that um, imagine, and this is, I think everybody who probably would listen to this video have done this before. You buy a piece of furniture, IKEA or not IKEA, and you open the box and you throw away the manual and you start assembling it because you think, come on, how difficult can it be, right? This is kind of the mindset. You are vibe assembling something. And then you assemble it. It looks like a piece of furniture, and then you end up with like an extra 2 screws and maybe another piece that you don't really know where it goes, right? So that's kind of how vibe coding sounds to me. So if you don't really know what you're doing, you're gonna end up with something that you don't know how it works.
Yes, and also like I tried. I think I saw a video of Anya Kubov today. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
And basically, web coding is like you have a lot of stuff. It's similar, like, when we had, like in Java, we have kind of like hereditary things, and so basically you have something, but you don't have too much. Then you want to remove something, and everything gets removed. So you can't have exactly that. So you end up, I think an analogy was like you want a banana and you have like a banana with a gorilla and the whole forest. So it's similar. It gives me this vibe, like, okay, like I got something, but it's too much and not what I want. Can we go back? And then you can't go back. So, for example, this is my experience so far. If you have an experience with web coding, especially good ones, because it's nice to joke about this. I am the first one who makes jokes about this, especially when I go for a run. Like, I prefer to run instead of vibe coding. I'm also slowly switching to the running topic. So I like to make this analogy a lot, especially when I go run. But if you have experiences with vibe coding, I would like you to let me know. Like, I don't know, I vibe coded this and it worked. So I'm still waiting for something like this. And of course, yes, we're there mentioning Google Gemini. Be fun. We'll have more people also to talk about this. I'm calling the front end, hard code for back end. Okay, yes, okay. Perfect. Abdel, so thank you. I'm really enjoying this conversation. We talked about AI, we talked about conferences and vibe coding. Now I want to ask you, like, what do you think about like getting in shape, so staying fit? So is this something that a developer can do? Is this like a myth? I would want to like to know even from your point of view, because there is this. Probably if we ask ChatGPT to draw a stereotypical, let's say, developer, they will probably have someone like henching it like this, probably not very fit. So that's the stereotype.
Yeah, of course.
I want to crush this stereotype in my career. It's one of my goals. So I want you to help me and let me know more about this part, basically connecting the mind with our body. So I would like to know from your point of view, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question. I've had my own fair share of going through all of the phases of being extremely out of shape and not really doing much with exercise, to doing a little bit too much exercise, to kind of trying to find that balance. And I think it's all a matter of course, time management. It's very important, right? That you kind of set time aside for doing everything that you need to do, but that goes beyond just like getting in shape. It goes to, like, spending time with family or spending time doing other stuff that you enjoy that is not coding. And I think the stereotype is coming from the fact that a lot of people think that developers are those like geeks that spend like 24-hour writing code, which is not necessarily healthy or realistic. People come in all shapes and mindsets and different backgrounds, and for me personally, what took me time is figuring out something that works, and it works in the sense that I travel a bunch, so I need to be able to exercise even when I'm traveling. Um, I don't necessarily always have access to gym. I don't necessarily have access to, like workout equipments. And there are certain workouts I just don't like or don't enjoy. And through kind of trial and error and trying multiple things, I got to the point where running became the thing that works for me. So I think, to answer to your question, it's kind of, it's a gray zone. You need to experiment to see what works for you, and what works for you could be yoga, or could be heavy lifting, or could be biking, or could be, whatever. um so I think that I don't think that there is like a one solution fits all kind of thing. You kind of have to experiment and try. But definitely, I do agree on the point that like y- like being in a good physical shape helps your head think better, right? Because you probably sleep better, you eat better, you like, it helps you manage your energy better. So exercise, and to be also open, very honest, exercising is something you can do as little as walking 30 minutes per day. It doesn't have to be anything extreme, right? Just go out, walk 30 minutes and go back home, and that could be enough for some people. So it really depends on the person.
Yes, absolutely. I left a poll. Don't disappoint me. I asked like, do you exercise regularly? With yes, kinda, and no, and we already have 50% of no. So I'm already disappointed. I think when I joined Twitter, I asked like, do you exercise regularly? And I got like a 70% of no, which like kind of shocked, because I come from the sports world. Is my background. I don't know if you know this. Like I've been a volleyball coach for 20 years of my
Oh, I
life. So
didn't know this. Okay.
before stepping into tech, so for me it's a plus. I'm more like a it's a, usually like developers, they focus on running, and more like a runner who learned some code, something like that. And then, so these polls, they will keep disappointing me, but I will try. I'm trying to keep it up. There is a Latin proverb which is mens sana in corpore sano, which means like healthy mind, healthy body. So I would translate it as it is, which is I think great. And I think this is also for me. I don't know your experience with all the content creation stuff. When exercise, like all my ideas, including this series of interviewing people, it came out from me like walking. So all my ideas, good and bad, but of course also the bad ones, they come out from me walking and thinking, okay, what can I do now? What can be next? Learning Rust, getting into public speaking, doing the Docker stuff. So look, everything related to creation, it's always related to me like walking, because then I can focus. Because usually when I am at home, I don't know, maybe this is just me, it can be just me, but when I'm at home, I'm very focused on like do the things, like focus on the execution part. When I go out to take some fresh air, run even slow or just walk, my mind just it seems to just change and just switch to creative mode. And I have all these plenty ideas. Sometimes I have them, sometimes they're bad, but still, usually I execute them when I come back. I remember when I started doing these interviews, I was doing like a couple. Then I said, okay, can I do this like, I don't know, 100 in 100 days? This was like 5 years ago. And this happened, and now we are doing this series. For example, this series started for me like having this idea. Okay, I can do this more regularly, probably, and so all the ideas, they come from here. That's it. And typing exercise for your hands. What is a good choice? If typing exercise for your hands, what is your go-to choice for brain? Go-to choice for brain exercise. Do you have an exercise for your brain?
Reading sci-fi. I find like, I mean, it's not really an exercise, but it lets my brain kind of wander in a different space. Um, and maybe playing chess. I love playing chess. So these are my two favorite other things that is not coding related specifically.
Oh, that's great.
And maybe another one would be Lego building. I love building Lego. So that's also let your brain kind of. The problem with Lego is that it's a rabbit hole that you get into it, and it just never ends. So
I know this because I've been playing Lego when I was a child, of course. I'm a bit scared of how much money I could spend if I start over. So since I'm a bit an obsessive person, I try to avoid that a bit. So that makes you a bit dangerous friend. Uh, Usually I end up buying things. But yes, thank you. I was used to play. It has been a while for me not playing chess, but I was decent when I was young. I was a good one. Also, we didn't have smartphones, so I had something to do. Anyway, which color glasses? Let's go, Bob. Okay, yes. I only go to gym to go to sauna, which I think it's
That's
something.
good. I
If you
mean,
can, if you manage to get out of it in time, it's nice to have. Abdel, I would like to know now your review about this pair of shoes. No, I'm joking. I have
oh,
this pure pair. This is not sponsored, sadly, by ASICS, but I have this Cumulus 27. So this is like really soft ones. No, I'm joking. But like, what do you think? Like about, for example, for me, this is probably a weird question, but for me, like buying a new running shoes is just probably it's like I don't know for someone I don't know like cutting their hair or changing haircut. So for me, buying a new, the old ones of these triggered me starting a YouTube video. Starting
okay.
the YouTube channel. So this is also I don't know if you know that my first 10 videos of me on YouTube is actually not me coding but me actually running.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
so this is how I started the YouTube because I was so shy I couldn't even speak in front of camera. So I let my legs to like speak for me. So it is and now those shows are really consumed. I think you shared a picture of very consumed
Yeah,
running shoes. It
my
was you.
Saucony pair. Yeah.
I remember those. So for me, this really triggers me. So do you have something similar, I don't know, related to running and activities that even like triggers you, I don't know, do something new or I don't know, new ideas? Because in tech, I think we always need like new ideas, new inputs, something I don't know, a bit exciting. So if there is something that
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've been looking into the thing. Also, the thing with running specifically is that while it is a very good physical exercise, it's kind of a bit rough for the body because you're always moving the same set of muscles, right? It's always the same exact set of muscles moving in same exact way, and that's kind of be too straining for the body. So I've been exploring other ways of kind of trying to alternate exercising. Hence, why you see this bike behind me. You don't see, but it's mounted on a trainer, and I'm trying to substitute some of my running sessions with biking sessions. So instead for go for a run, I would go for a cycling, indoor cycling, or when the weather is good, outdoor cycling, right? Um, and that already helps you move your body in a different way. And I would not do it as addition; I would substitute. So instead of going for 10K today, I was just like bike back and forth 10K each way to the office, and that should be good enough. So that's one of them. The second thing with the thing we choose is that it's not a rabbit hole. I do have my favorite pair of shoes, but then I also want to experiment with other type of shoes, right? So I usually run with Saucony, and I have an A6 as well that I bought like a few months ago. I've been loving both. I've been using both. Um, it's just like also a matter of trying different levels of softness and squishiness. Um, because running on paved road versus running on trail is different than running on different types of like the road or the sidewalk or cobblestone roads or whatever. When I was in Paris last week, I ran a bunch, and that was quite rough because my shoes was not adapted for cobblestone, and Paris has full of cobblestone streets, right? um so yeah, I do usually what happens is the thing with running is it's becoming a thing that a lot of people care about these days, and therefore all these brands making shoes are pouring a lot of money into research and development. And I'm following a little bit that, like reading about it, and a lot of times I see like a pair of shoes and I'm like, what, why, who would wear, why would you run in those? And then I have to, because I'm curious, I have to go read about them to try to understand like why have they designed it this way, what are they trying to optimize for. So definitely it's something that for me it comes from tech, because tech is inherently this field where you have to dive into something to understand it. So I sort of apply the same mechanism into running because I also want to like dive into it to understand what makes you faster, better, whatever.
Yeah, we're basically engineering, doing some engineering on the sports, but I think it's also something, and I think it's related to the fact that we are curious about this. So yes, nice. Now that I know that, I'll probably also check some of these news. We have a question by Bob. When will you two just stop just talking in a podcast and start running together? This is something that can happen. I'm just changing the question a bit, but yes, I mean, maybe I can bring this pair of running shoes in Romania, and maybe we can make it happen. I don't know when is your talk, when is my talk, but we can try.
We'll make it happen.
And yes, that will be a great experience. I think I did this just once, I think, so far in Atlanta last year. So I was talking about that probably having you going on stage would make me happy, but having you running with other speakers would make me jealous. So this is how it works. So that's it. But yeah. Abdel, really thank you for this nice conversation that we had. So I would like to have you maybe some final tips, especially for DevRels. Now we didn't speak about DevRel because DevRel is it means many things and many activities. So I know that there are some people here who are maybe interested into developer relations. So what do you think that makes a very good developer advocate? What do you think that makes a developer advocate really say, okay, this is a really good developer advocate?
That's a very good question. I'm a bit old school. I believe that what makes people good developer advocates is the fact that they are already good or decent engineers. So you already know technology, familiar with technology. I'm not saying that you have to be an expert in technology, but whatever you're going to be talking about, you have to have some level of intimacy or familiarity with it, right? Because you cannot advocate about stuff you don't understand. My sort of rule of thumb, and even if I don't always apply it because it doesn't always work, is that I should have a fairly good, and by good I mean 70 to 75 to 80% level of understanding of a topic before I go on stage, because I need to be able to understand and answer basic questions, right? I might not be able to answer all the questions, but I want to be able to understand most of them. The second one goes along with this, is it's okay to not know stuff. If people ask you and you don't know something, it's fine to say do not know. I much rather have people say I don't know than people give me a bullshit answer, right? So that's obviously quite obvious, I guess. And I think the third one is just bring your authentic self to this. If you don't try to mimic somebody else. I don't want people to be like me. I want people to be who you are, because who you are kind of blends into your personality and in the way you're delivering your content and in the way you're talking about the stuff you're talking about. I see a lot of times people that I don't want to mention names, but a lot of times people go I wish I am so and so. I wish I am this other famous developer advocate. And I'm like, why do you want to be that person? And I think what a lot of times people mean is that I wish I could get to their level in terms of being known, being famous, being good, which is a good aspiration to have. But the wrong aspiration for me is trying to be someone, to be like someone, or to mimic or to copy someone. And yeah, I think that these are basically probably my tips. The people that I enjoy the most listening to, this is the last thing. And I know that this is hard and it comes with experience, but the best talks I listen to are the talks that are a story. If you're able to do very good storytelling, and then in the storytelling include technology, then that's probably the best content. Not everybody's able to do that. It's very hard. It doesn't come naturally to people. But telling the story and through the story, sending the message about the thing you want to talk about is probably the best way you could do it.
This is exactly what I'm working on for the We're Developers conference talk.
Oh, nice.
So I hope that I will not disappoint you. And I think it's very important. Of course, not all the talks, especially some technical ones, they are easy to turn into a story. I saw very good speakers that they can turn even the most boring logging. Sorry about logging, but like I don't know, the first thing that came up in my mind, like something which is not like some like emotion. I don't know, like a car like speeding, but. I saw some people they are really good at this, so they start with the problem, they try to humanize the thing, mix of jokes and technical stuff. So let's see. That's very important, and yes, so probably because I think to tell a great story, like the grandparents, they say great stories because they have the experience, so they know what their grandchildren can experience and they can like the most. What is something which makes things fascinating. So yes, still got to work on storytelling. Yes, it's an aspect which seems a bit underrated, I would say, for some talks, because and I can understand this because sometimes as developers, I don't know, maybe we want to just focus on the technology. I don't know, I have this framework, I want to mention, the 4 main features of this framework, but sometimes trying to have, I don't know, at least a chronological order, or I don't know, something that fixed a specific problem or a specific company can be great. Let's see. Humanizing YAML files is a bit hard. I agree, Mohammed, but this is what makes our job so interesting. Otherwise, it would be boring and too easy. So yes,
to be honest, I never understood what the problem people have with YAML. Like, what's wrong with YAML?
I like YAML, so I think maybe they are the only 2 people. I see some people really mocking YAML file. I don't know why. I think they're nice to watch, and so don't. So if you hate YAML, just let me know in the chat. Let's have a fight on this. So I think YAML they existed to make things easier, and some people didn't understand them. I found this as a thing that people didn't like them, or some of them.
I think if you hate YAML, you probably haven't found the right plugin for your IDE yet. That will make writing YAML easier. Just try another plugin.
Yes, let's see. Now we should make another poll. Like, do you hate? Because I think that for YAML file there is nothing in the middle. Like either you hate it or you love it. There is not usually that's it. I like YAML. Only it pretends to be a markup language. Yes,
but it's not. It's not a markup. Come on.
Let's fight, Mohammed.
It's not. It's key value. Markup language is different. I actually do not like HTML. Speaking of that.
See, that's it, Mohammed. Now you need to come up and fight and say and give your point of view. See, we were just chilled people. We were talking about running, like experiencing a run, and now you came back to just talk about YAML file and fight. Let's see, YAML, yet another markup.
Yeah, but that's just a joke. Come on.
It's a joke, but not everyone can catch it. So I'm sorry, Mohammed. So that's it. But if you explain a joke, it's not funny anymore. So like I explain sometimes to someone. Abdel, really enjoyed this first conversation together. It was also a very open and real first reaction one because we never had a conversation like this. I'll bring my running shoes to Romania, but let's see if we can make it happen. And yes, so we really wish you best of luck. Would you like to give a final message, some final thoughts on this first conversation that we had together? Do you want to talk about something that you have been working on, something that we missed? Yeah.
Thank you for having me first. I really enjoyed the conversation. It's my first time actually doing a podcast where I got to talk about running because not everybody's into this. So that was awesome. I continue working on the stuff I'm working on. The only thing I would say to people is if you're into Kubernetes, probably go listen to our podcast, Kubernetes podcast by Google. And we're looking forward to see what people have to say about what we publish already and what we have in the pipeline. We have a lot of cool stuff coming. I am not the only host on this. I have other hosts and we're working on it together. And I would be curious to see. Of course, feel free to reach out to me on social media, mostly on my LinkedIn, and tell me questions about things related to AI that you would love to hear more or less about. I think that we're going toward this like future where it's going to be a part of what we do or part of our job as developers. And I'm not necessarily mean using AI as an assistant. I mean integrating AI into your workloads. So I would love to listen to what people have to say, kind of listen to your current struggles, things that you're trying to do, and see how we can come up with like better, faster ways of doing things.
Nice, thank you. I will think about this. This can also be an interesting one. I hope that I got it right, like kubernetespodcast.com. Is that correct?
Kubernetespodcast.com, yes.
It's correct. Okay, so we also leave this in the description. I will also leave your LinkedIn link in the description. And yes, Abdel, I'm surprised that nobody invited you to talk about running. I don't know what else we can talk about, to be honest. So this was, Kubernetes Power was just basically a filler of the DevRel stuff. It was basically an excuse. Talking about running, I think I will go for a run now. This is not saying this because we are in a running podcast, but because I haven't gone yet, and we are going to a better season. So it's not, the sun is not set yet. So if we end up this podcast now, I still have some time with some light. So I'm sure that you will let me go. So yes, thank you so much.
Go crush it.
Perfect. That was the perfect end. And yes, Abdel, really thank you so much for coming here. Yeah, see you in a month or so. I hope your last question is your talk for Romania ready or not?
Not yet. I haven't decided what I'm going to make it about.
Thank you, because this makes me feel better. So that this I asked for this. But
the talk will be ready the day before, so it's okay.
The talk will be ready for. Yes. Also, the flight time is usually a very good one. For example, it's always a great time. I don't know how could prepare a talk if we will invent teleport. The problem I will be probably in trouble because I know that I have that 3 hours on a flight and I don't have access to internet. So I know that I can focus on the talk, of course, final details. But still, if we invent teleport, I will probably be in trouble. So yeah, thank you, Abdel.
Thank you.
Thank you, and yes, see you soon. Okay.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone. Bye. This.